I'm going to do a little bit more work on the XR today. So the jobs I have planned for today is I'm going to fit up the rear wheel bearings into um, that XR80 rim. I got the bearings during the week. They're currently in the freezer. I've been told that's the best way to fit them up. You actually put the bearings in the freezer and heat the hub, and the bearing should just drop in, and then by the time everything cools down or warms up, it should be a nice snug fit. You don't have to go bashing the bearings with, a punch or block of wood or anything to get them in, or a socket. So I'm going to do those bearings. I'm still waiting on a replacement tyre and tube. One of the other jobs I'm going to do today is I'm going to, although I can't show you at the moment because this side cover's sort of fixed on, you won't see anything in here anyway, but there's like a nozzle on the end of this exhaust, and it's held in by a C-clip or a circlip, and you can take the nozzle out. So what I want to do is I actually want to extend the smaller tube, which is basically just an outlet tube that comes off the main off here, but it's half the size. I just want to extend that and bring that through here, or even bring it flush with the plate. I just want to make sure that like on startup on a cold engine, you'll always get condensation, so you're always going to get that black carbon and stuff coming out, and I don't want it really making the back of the number plate all dirty. I want the exhaust to sort of exit here, so if it's going to spit out, it'll spit out onto the ground. So I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to modify this as well today, because although I got brakes, I'm a little bit worried about this bar. It probably would do the job, regardless whether it's got this 15-inch on it, 15-inch rim on it, or the 14-inch rim. The push action will probably work, but I'm a little bit worried about it maybe bowing here, because nearly all setups, regardless where your cam pin arm is, if it's mounted up the top, it's still, everything always pulls forward. So that's what I want to do. I want to cut this off. I've got enough room here in this gap here, and I'm just going to cut this off, and I'm going to weld this just on this return here, just here, and then put the bar in. The only issue I'm probably going to have, or I'm going to find is a little bit difficult, is getting a split pin in there. But I might be able to actually load. I'm not sure yet. See, I haven't even tested this. I was going to say I could probably load it in from the back and put the split pin on the outside with the washer, but I can't do that. So this will go up here. So I'll just set this here for the moment. And you see how that sort of brings everything in line now? Everything's more parallel on the bike, rather than having that brake. And this will work. This will work as a pull type system now, rather than a push type system. So that's one job I'm going to do today as well. Don't know if I filmed this the other day. Probably did. Got a brain like a sieve, and I don't tend to watch my own videos back once I've posted them. But yeah, here I've played around with the carby. Tank still needs to be flushed out, which I should have done that before I even painted it, but it just totally slipped my mind. So it's still got some remnants of two-stroke in there, which wouldn't be a bad thing. This motor hasn't been started in quite a number of years, and it wouldn't really do it any harm if there was a little bit of two-stroke residue in there. But I'm worried about there being dust and other stuff that's accumulated in there as well. So I will flush it, but just to get lengths and everything, I've cut all my hoses, I've put my inline filter in, and here I've put a T-junction in. I'm going to change this plastic one out for a brass one. This is all I had at the time. I did think I had some brass ones in there, but I don't. So what I've done here is, on most 4-strokes or most road bikes, you always have a reserve. So your reserve is, well, that's down is on, and then that's your reserve. So it doesn't really matter which way you turn this fuel tap. You'll always have fuel feeding into the carby. So you don't have to remember which is on and which is reserve. You can switch it any way and you'll get a flow through both tubes. So and it was a good way to plug the other one, because if you don't plug it and there's no hose on there, you turn the tap on, of course you're going to get fuel running out, and you may not realize straight away. So you'll end up getting fuel all over your frame and everything else. So so yeah, I thought that was a nice little neat trick to come up with. I'm still waiting on the bullet clip so that I can wire in this kill switch. But if I get the time today, I'm going to take this casing apart and I'm going to wire this in. It's just sitting inside the hole at the moment, but I'm going to wire that into the switch itself. And then when the bullet clip turns up, I can just connect that. If I also get the time today, what I will do is I'll take the seat off again. I'll take the fuel tank off again, because it's not bolted on. Bolts are just sitting in there. There's no nuts on the back of it. And what I'll do is I'll just neaten up the loom a little bit. I didn't want to go taping it all up until I actually know the bike starts. Once I got the bike running, then I can tape up the loom, and I've got proper wiring loom tape to do that, so it'll be nice and neat and all tucked away, and you won't see, like if you're looking from the side here, you can see the wires here running down, but I'll have all this tucked up neatly, and it'll be on the opposite side of the bar, so that'll all be neat. You won't see things like this white one here, which I've just tucked in there. See, all nice and neat. So I'll get all that done. Another thing I did was the spark plug lead. I probably chopped about, I don't know, 4 inches out of it. It was very long because this was obviously off the CT110, and all this would have been mounted back here somewhere on the CT frame, where now it's all mounted up the front, so I didn't need this cable to be as long. So that's neatened all that up, and I might do some other things like tightening up the front axle. That can get done. I can tighten up this bolt, so that's got a nylock nut on the back. That's why I've only been able to hand tighten it to that point, so that can get done. So it's just going to be a little bit of a cleanup day today on the XR. I won't be starting it. I rebent this the other day. Had to rebend this to try and get a little bit of clearance here on the plate. I made up a little bracket, but I'll show you this later when I pull it apart. It was causing the plate, the exhaust was causing the plate to sit out, and it's always going to sit out a little bit, obviously, because this exhaust was not designed for this bike, but it's not too bad. I don't know if that'll do it any justice, but it doesn't get in your way. It doesn't rub, your leg doesn't rub on it, and probably with this RM370 seat being obviously a little bit wider than an 80 seat, it's sitting pretty flush, so it doesn't look out of place. It's really good. But yeah, I rebent that and sort of pushed it further in. I got it a little bit closer to the head, which is a lot better. I had a lot more clearance there before, but it was causing the number plate to stick out even further. So by pulling this in, it's allowed me to get the number plate back in a bit. I've got a couple of little chips here. I've just realised, I don't know why I've got chips there. That yellow is not the yellow from the YZ plate, because this actual side plate was a white plate. That's actually the plastic primer that you can see, so I don't know what I've actually hit that with, so I'll touch that up. There's a couple of little spots on the bike I've got to touch up, but yeah, we're getting there. Another good thing was I drilled this number plate. It had two tabs that came off the back that sort of go around the forks. I don't know if we can get a better view of this, but I drilled those, and I happened to buy, there was a hardware store closing down a number of years ago, and they had a whole heap of these red cable ties, all in different sizes. So I just bought them all up for 50 cents a pack, and I think the red actually looks good. It actually suits it. So now I've got my number plate securely fastened to my forks, which I'm very happy about. And it sits nice. So I've been able to tuck the cable in behind the plate as well. It's in through the guide here. All the handbrakes working nice, as I think I might have mentioned in the last video. So that was just a matter of adjusting the cam arm. I don't know whether this had been adjusted in the past. I don't remember myself doing it when I owned the bike. I might have, but yeah, I just needed to rotate the cam arm up a little bit to give the cable a little bit more. The cam pin was sort of, I guess you'd call it, opened or angled, and once I rotated the cam arm, the cam straightened up again and gave me what I needed to get it in up here. One thing I've had to do, unfortunately, and I should have bought a new one of these, this is an aftermarket handle, straight out of China or Hong Kong. This is an original YZ80 lever boot. It's not the best. It's got a few nicks and dings in it. So I figured, it's not, if it was in really good condition, I wouldn't have done this. But what I did is I just slit the rubber to push it over. It's more bulky around this area here than what the original YZ was. So I just pulled that over and I put a tiny little black cable tie on there to stop the boot slipping down the cable. So yeah, it'll serve its purpose, I guess. Might change it later on, but for now that can stay. What else? I'm not really sure, guys, until I start work on that back wheel. I've got all these ideas and little jobs to do today, but I've got to make a start to see how much I'm going to get done. So I'll leave it here for now, and yeah, we'll pick up on the vid later when I'm dropping those wheel bearings in. Okay guys, I'm going to attempt to put these bearings in. Just pull these out of the freezer. They've been in overnight. They're extremely bloody cold, but the grease isn't frozen in them. They still rotate. So here we go. And this is on the advice of the professionals on YouTube. So well, we'll see how we go. They say you don't need to put much heat into it. Just need to sort of warm it up a little bit. That'll cause it to expand. Where the bearings have been in the freezer overnight, it causes them to shrink a little bit. going to do a really silly thing in a minute. Just going to see how hot this is. Yeah, it feels like it's getting warm. Doesn't take much. Doesn't take much to heat it up. Alright. Never done this before, guys, so you have to bear with me. So supposedly it's supposed to drop in, but as you can see, it didn't drop in. So I'm going to have to probably use a punch. I should have had this stuff ready, but I didn't. So yeah, I should have had it all ready. So that's the one. I'm going to knock this in. Nice and even. There's not a lot of resistance there, guys. You can hear the tone changing that, so I'd say that's all the way home. Yeah, that's warm on that side. So this side only takes one bearing, the other side takes two. Whoops, nearly stuffed up. One thing I've been telling myself all morning, don't leave the tube out. Don't leave the tube out. Oh, here we go. Bingo. Alright, got to put this thing in. Because that determines how far the bearings actually sit inside the hub. It's real hard to try and keep this this socket on the edge of the bearing. I've got to try and knock it in evenly. There's a lot of heat coming off this hub, and I can feel the coldness coming off the bearing too. So I've done it the way they suggest to do it, and I think we're in, guys. Now, if I remember rightly, on this side it did sit flush, and then on this side you can hear that spacer moving around in there. So but that sounds pretty good. Looks like it did tap this out a little bit. We'll give it a bit more of a tap down. It's nice and flush, that's what I want. And then the brake hub should just sit over the top, which it does. That's lovely. Now, when I bought this rim, guys, it did have two bearings in there. Now I'm not, I've had my doubts on what I think this this rim is, but there isn't that many rims out there that actually have two bearings in the same size, or have three bearings in the rear wheel. So I don't know whether the space that's left in there is a provision for a seal, or whether I should put this one back in. So I'm just going to grab my really cheap and nasty verniers. I've got a good set, but this is good enough for what I need. So we'll get a depth there. And it looks like that'll take another bearing, and it would even take a seal if it desired it. So I think we'll put it in. That's the way I bought it. So if I put it back the way I bought it, it's got to work. See that one? That just dropped straight in. That's beautiful. And there's still a slight rebate there in case a dust seal goes over it, but with these sealed bearings I don't think you need one. We're looking at about 4 mil. Looking at about 4 mil step there, so that's good. So our bearings are in. I did fit up 3 new spokes during the week, so this one here, and 2 on the back. These were just off a pit bike. The angles of the heads where they go through the rim were at a slightly different angle, so I did straighten them out and then rebent them to suit the, I guess, an XR rim. I didn't have a lot of luck, as I mentioned, with the new tube and the rim band. The spoke nuts, when I put the whole wheel together and tried to blow it up, it wouldn't go up. And I thought I'd pinch the tube, so I took it out, and it turns out that all the spoke, some people refer to them as nipples, spoke nipples, or spoke nuts. Actually, it pierced the tube. Don't ask me how, because it was a rim. Actually, it pierced the rim band. It pierced the rim band, which then, in some spots, pinched the tube, or put holes in the tube. There wasn't a single tyre lever mark on the tube at all, but it was, the holes were the result of the spokes. So I went round with my hand like that, and if there was anything sharp it was going to slice my fingers. There was not one sharp spoke, nut or nipple on this rim. So I've gone back to what I always used to do, and I guess it was the poor man's version of a rim band when you're obviously 15, 16, 17 years old and you don't have a driver's license and you need to fix a puncture and the rim band breaks and you can't get down to a Yamaha dealer. You go and grab your dad's electrical tape and you just put electrical tape around it. So I've been able to go around that about 6 times, which is a lot thicker than the rim band. I don't feel any sharpness in there at all now. I'm more confident actually using the tape than the rim band. Don't know why the rim band broke, but it did. So I'm sticking with that. What else? Oh, done some stuff with the sprocket. Don't know if I actually covered this in one of the other videos, but the 2 other wheels that I got as part of the deal when I bought this, they're old Yamaha wheels. I don't know what they're off ones. The front one's a 21 inch and the back one's an 18. The back wheel came with these, if I can get them off, it came with these. They're like nut locks, if you're not using nylock nuts. So I'm just going to use them rather than go out and buy nylock nuts for this. I know these things work. I've had them on multiple things over the years. So, oh, I can't believe it. That hub's still hot. It's still really, really hot. So, yeah, just gonna go with them. They're a part I got that I was able to clean up. So, why not use them? Save me some money. And you know, it's a factory factory made component, so yeah, why not use it? So yeah, that tyre's a real disappointment. I think what I'm going to do too with the tyre, you know, I've made an attempt to fit the tyre when I first the first time, tyre and tube and rim band, and basically blown $25 on the rim band having been perforated and snapping, and the tube being holed by the spoke heads. So I think I'm just going to take this into one of the motorcycle dealers and just get them to put the tyre on it. I don't care if it costs me $20. Can't be that much, because I get car tyres swapped on the rims with balancing for $20, so it can't be that expensive for a motorcycle tyre to get put on. Unless they penalise you for buying the tyre somewhere else. Bad luck. If they're not competitive with their price, of course you're going to buy from somewhere else. So I'm just going to nip these up. I'll do them up properly with a socket later. But yeah, we're starting to get the rim together now, and getting one step closer to finishing the bike finally. You know, got all this wheel sort of together now, and got the brake hub there too. So I pinched the sorry about the camera work, guys. I'm trying to do this one-handed, and yeah, so I got the bolt out of the 15-inch rim, out of the 15-inch cam arm, and used it on this. So got a nice new bolt in there, got the two bearings in, sprockets on, so just tightened up the nuts, but not fully. As I said, I've got to tighten them up with a socket, and then I can bend those tabs, those locking tabs over. It's a 42 tooth sprocket, so it's a little smaller than the one I was running on the 15-inch, which I think was a 45. I think it's a 45. So this should have slightly quicker takeoff, I'm guessing. But yeah, this is ready now to go in and have a tyre put on it. I've just, before I started the camera work up again, I put a shaft through here and I spun the wheel, and there's very minimal buckling in it. They say on trail bikes, on a new rim, the average tolerance is about 2 millimeters of play. Sorry guys, I'm trying to adjust this this little base so I can sit this down. So yeah, they say 2 millimeters of like side wobble, and 2 millimeters of up and down. Well, I tell you, for a rim that's nearly 40 years old, I'd say this is pretty damn good. It's pretty straight. It does have, it's got two little impact marks here. They're not bad. Like, they haven't distorted the rim on the inside lip, so that'll seal up nice. But I've just run around that with a little bit of emery paper, and I've got some of the fine scratches out. I haven't given it a polish yet. I want to wait till I get the tyre fitted, and then I'll polish it. Because I've got to put all that bloody tyre lube on it to fit the tyre, and just sometimes makes a mess. But you know, it is what it is. It was a $30 rim, so yeah, it'll serve its purpose, and yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy that I was able to salvage this off those Yamaha wheels. I'm lucky I had the brake shoes, even though they were ordered. The size was incorrect when I first ordered them. For that 15-inch rim, they've worked out perfect for this. So That's all nice. It sits properly together. So yeah. So for the rim, I'll leave it here, and I'm going to start on the next job. Okay, I've just taken the seat off. Unfortunately, you get a few scratches on the top of the frame there because of the way the bolting system works up, but obviously when the seat's on there you don't see it. This side panel modification, as you can see, the grommets there, but I couldn't quite get this in, so all I've done is I've used one of these pipe or tube keepers, same as what I've used on the front here, but just a slightly bigger one, and I've put that around the frame and put a little nut and bolt on it, and that holds it out just enough. I can squeeze this clip down a little bit here as it comes around the frame to just take that slackness out of it, but not at the moment because as you know, I'm still mocking things up. So the next job will be to take this plate off, and I'm going to get the end out of the exhaust. Okay, there's a bit better look at the end of the exhaust. So if I measure from there, because it'll be like a slip over job, I measure out to here. I probably want it to be about 120, I'm guessing, 120 mil. So I've got to go see what I've got in the shed, and we're probably looking at 25 mil in diameter. So I'll go and see what I can find in the shed, and we'll do a trial fit. Okay, I've been out into the shed to try and find some tubing to slip over the top of this baffle, and I haven't been successful in finding anything with the right size internal diameter, but I did find I've got a couple of these. These are actually the center shafts for a Lazy Susan that you would put into a corner unit in a kitchen. I grabbed these from work because it's nice thick tubular steel and it's chrome plated, and what I'm thinking of doing now is with this baffle, turning this upside down. I've got to get that lined up so that sits in there properly, but there we go. I'm going to face that up, and I'm going to cut a piece of this at 120 mil, and I'll have a nice chrome tip on it. It'll be pretty much it's 25 mil, so it'll be pretty much a by the time I cut it up, it'll be a butt weld, and that will give me a nice angle as well. So I'm going to give that a go, guys, and see how we go. Okay, guys, I've cut the tip, put a nice little angle on it on the end, and chamfered that or tapered that so that it gives me a little bit of depth to weld to. So I've got to go sit this back on the bike, make sure that I get all my angles right, and make sure I've got enough clearance before I commit to welding it. But yeah, it should be okay, I think. I would have preferred a slip fit, and then I could have just spot welded it rather than try to weld right around it, but you know, you make do with what you got. Okay, slight change of plan. When I went to do the mock-up, didn't quite work the way I planned. I planned to weld the flat surface to this tapered surface to get the angle, but it doesn't quite work the way I would like it. So it seems that I've got to weld the angled surfaces together to get the right angle, and I've also had to take that much off the end. So I'm going to go back and trial fit it for a last time, and if everything seems like it's going to work, we'll go with that, and we'll just spot weld it on in 2 spots and then trial fit it again on the bike and see how we go. Okay guys, I've just tacked that on. I haven't put the side plate on yet, but I'm about to do that now, so just bear with me. We'll see how we go. I'm just going to put just the nut on this bottom bolt. I won't worry about putting the clamp on the top because it is a little bit time consuming, but as long as I've got that pretty much lined up like that over the hole, I know it's right. And just to be on the safe side, we just pop that in there. But we won't need to do it up. So looking at it from the side, you wouldn't know anything's changed, but we have a nice little exhaust tip, chrome exhaust tip coming out the back. I just need to finish welding it up. This is its first trial fit, but I think that's nice. It's actually, I've got to tighten up the bracket. I've got to put the circlip back in, but once the circlip's back in, that shouldn't be hitting anything. It should be clearing the frame, and it should be clearing the top of the shock, so I shouldn't get any vibration out of it. All finished. So yeah, I can start to fit the side panel back on now, and job's done. Okay, I've started on this, guys, so I can run this wire in. The only problem is these 2 little screws that are holding this plate in, which is sort of blocking access to the switch. Can't get them out. Used the proper screwdriver, proper size screwdriver, wouldn't budge. Got them soaking in some RP7 at the moment. I'm hoping they're going to come out because they're sort of in a spot where I can't really get, say, a grinder or a hacksaw in there to cut across the screw to make sort of maybe a new slot to get them out. I can't grind the heads off them, so I'm a little bit stuck. If I can't get this out, I'm going to have to run another kill switch. I'm just going to have to leave this one sitting on there and put another kill switch on the handlebars here or on this side. Probably on this side, I would say, because that's the side that that one's on. So yeah, a little bit of unluckiness there, I guess. What else? Oh, I've changed some of the wires around as well. I sort of had them running like this one here. I had it running from the front of the bike and through there where that black wire's going. But I didn't want to see all the wiring here. This black wire I have no choice because that comes from the points. That's got to run up through there somewhere. But the rest of it, I popped all the casings off these wires, so the wires were loose, and I actually threaded them, brought them along the top of the frame and went down through here. Nothing's going to interfere with that. It's a little hard to see. You can see a green there, you can see a white there. They're the only 2 that needed to pass through there. And I got my fuse hooked up. I was actually waiting for the bullet clips, and then I thought, well, why don't I just pop the wire out that's in there, put a terminal onto this fuse wire and pop that straight in. So that's what I did. I got rid of that. Didn't sort of really need it. So that's cleaned up everything. So everything is connected now electrically except for the kill switch. Now, do I need a kill switch? Not really. I never had one in the past. I never had an ignition switch on this in the past. Well, for 30 years I hadn't had an ignition switch on it. So meaning a key and barrel. it was basically just hot wired. Now I've taken it back to the way it should be set up. So in the past, all I used to do was just choke it, to stop it. Well, that didn't sound too good. But yeah, I just used to choke it to stall it, and I guess I got the key. But you know, might as well put a kill switch back on it. It's meant to have one on it. I didn't like the sounds of that, guys. I hope it doesn't break. I did buy that expensive plastic glue to glue that back on after it broke, but you know, I do expect it to break in the future sometime. It's just, what can you do? Bad luck. I've taken the brake pedal off, and I've cut the tab off the bottom now. That's out in the garage. Just waiting for one of my cordless drill batteries to charge. I can't be bothered getting the corded grinder out, so I'm waiting for a battery to charge up, and I can finish sort of cleaning up the surfaces, and the welder's ready to go, so I can weld that tab on, bring it back in tonight, pop it back in there, and then we've got we'll have gone from a push mechanism to a pull mechanism, which is good. That's about it, guys. I think one of the other jobs that I'm going to do today, if light and time persist, is I'm going to take the bike, I'll tighten this back axle up so that the wheel doesn't move, and I'm going to drop it off this stand, and I'm going to put the engine bolts in from underneath, because the only thing I've got holding the engine in at the moment is this main bolt here that goes through the back of the frame. But I've got 4 bolts that I've got to put in through the subframe and up into the engine. So I might do that if I get a chance. A couple of the other things I did was I tightened up the bolt for the coil and the bolt for the condenser. So they've both been done. They're nice and tight now. And that by tightening that up, that allowed this to sit out from the pipe, because it was hitting the pipe. So that's all good now. Let me think. Been doing so many tiny little jobs. No, I think that's about it, guys. I'm going to go finish off this brake pedal in a few minutes time, and I'll let you see how it all turns out. I finished for the day. As you can tell probably by the lighting conditions, these GoPros don't sort of like the dark too much. So yeah, it's dark. I got the brake pedal finished. So I'll get some light on here, which will help a bit. So tab's been welded on the top there. Taken off the bottom, welded on the top. Also trimmed up a little bit around here, sort of short, and the pedal up. It used to stick a bit further out over the edge of this bolt. So basically just slimlined everything. One thing I'm going to do as well is just here, might be hard with the shadows, but you can see that the pedal kicks in towards the crankcase there. What I'm going to try and do is straighten that out a little bit, and that means that this will come further around here, so then I'll have to bend it from this point back. So yeah, it's just I don't want it hitting the crankcase there. So yeah, it seems to work alright. I might need to put a return spring on this, but I don't really know until I get the 14-inch rim on, because the 14-inch rim has got a proper brake setup. This one, as you know, is all heavily modified. Shoes were ground down, cam pin was ground down. So although this will work, the braking system will work on this wheel, the XR80 wheel that I fitted the bearings into today will work a hell of a lot better because it's got shoes that fit, and yeah, hopefully it'll just work better. So, but as you can see, all the bars sitting sort of nice and parallel. It looks a lot better than it did. I've still got to obviously paint this, but I wasn't going to set up compressors today to repaint the 1 foot peg. One foot brake pedal. I will do that at another time. I'll probably pick up on this again next weekend. Cheers.